What's up, YouTube? So, Microsoft just did their live Q&A. Released some new information regarding a lot of things, the world updates, future planes coming, but most importantly, what I was most interested in, and most of y'all here on my channel, is Xbox. What's coming to Xbox? What is the future for Xbox, and what's going on? Well, let's jump into the Q&A and break it down onto some of the parts of it that I thought were the most important. So I'll see you guys in just a minute. Let's break it down and discuss what we can see coming.
So first, guys, let's start off with the roadmap for this year. So we'll listen to them talk for a minute here, and then we'll go over that shortly after. So here we go.
Roadmap for what we are planning on doing on our side. So the first thing is world updates. You know what world updates are: updated imagery, updated 10 cities, updated POIs, airports, everything. We're planning 6, and I put in like when we are planning them. There's always a little bit of, are we going to hit those dates exactly? But I think that's what we're shooting for. And alongside the world updates come local legends. We started that with the Junkers U-52 back in August last year. And we're continuing this with the Fokker F7 here with the World Update Australia, and we're planning 6 more. The next thing is Famous Flyers, which is a series that we wanted to kick off last year with Antonov. Then we ran into some interesting licensing topics. We're planning 5. They come out with sim updates at the same time. And then lastly, and probably the most mysterious of what I call major releases. And I basically said, look, there's going to be a surprise. It's coming soon. Can't talk about it yet. But soon we can talk about it. And then in May comes Maverick. In June comes another surprise, a big surprise. Then in the fall come gliders and another surprise, and then helicopter. So we have a full year to look forward to. But it all starts actually next week with Sim Update 7. And we have a little trailer, just a teaser actually.
We do. All right. Sim Update 7.
All right, just a teaser. The update, so World Update 7 launches on January 31st at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And just to give you a quick overview and give you a sense, so about 60 people worked on this.
So guys, so you see there, so big things coming on the roadmap. We have the Australian trailer right there just released. Beautiful Australia. The Great Barrier Reefs looked absolutely stunning. I cannot wait to fly over those. We will be getting the Fokker F7 with that release on January 31st. And then what he was talking about, the Antov and the licensing issue for the Famous Flyers. So from what I saw on here, that might be postponed if they cannot get the licensing right. And if that is the case, then we will be getting the Beechcraft Model 17 Stagger Wing by Coronado in place of it. So really cool. So we have gliders coming this year, helicopters. He talks about 6 more planes that will be coming this year with world updates. So let's continue on and break this down.
About 500,000 files, all that was integrated. We worked with Orbex, which is an Australia-based company. They built all 94 POIs and 4 airports, so Long Reach, Mount Beauty, Shell Harbor, and Paraburdo. I always mispronounce that one. And what was great about that is they know Australia inside out, so they could really help bring the country and the continent really to life. Then Bing Maps contributed 11 what we call 10 cities for the Grammetry cities. So we have Sydney and Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth, Hobart, Cairns, Darwin, Townsville, Bunbury, and Mackay. And we have a new team that we set up here at Microsoft, it's like 13 people, and they're helping us speed up. So I'm very hopeful that we're going to get more photogrammetry cities as we go throughout 2022. Very cool. Perfect Flight made new missions. So 5 landing challenges, 6 discovery flights, 5 bush trips, and so we'll obviously put everything together. But it's our biggest update yet, and it's really looking cool. I've been talking to some Australian press over the last few days, and they love what they see. So it's hopefully you enjoy it too. And then alongside it comes Local Legend 2. We just talked about this. Here's a quick trailer.
So as you saw there, guys, the beautiful footage of the Fokker F7 looking absolutely amazing for sure. I also want to highlight how they said they hired on 13 new people to help work on the photogrammetry of the city. So that is great. More people being hired to get these things moving in the direction they need to be going. But that plane looked absolutely awesome. They said they had 60 people working on this Australian update. So cool news there. Let's continue to move forward.
All right. And next is, I'm not sure I see the slide, Jane.
Next.
Famous Flyer. So we talked about it. So it was interesting. I called it Famous Flyer number 1. So the story on because some people asked, what's the deal with the Antonov? Well, the Antonov is done. If you ask Andre, he definitely will tell you it's done, and we keep poking him on, hey, a few more fixes, but it's basically done. And we are still talking to Antonov about getting the license. So given that, we have another plane that was intended to be Famous Flyer 2, but we might actually ship it first. And the target date for this is March 1st, alongside Sim Update 8. And so what that means is on the development roadmap, I think I'd written Sim Update 8 was 222 or something like this, and we moved it to 3.1 just to have a little bit more testing time.
Okay.
But so this new plane that we're announcing as a new development partner. And here we go. Next slide. Ta-da.
Fernando.
Hello. And I think he's here.
Yes, Fernando, would you like to turn your camera on and we can chat with you for a few minutes?
So this is about
Hi, everyone.
the second plane.
Hi, Fernando.
If they
Welcome
can
to
get the
the
licensing
stream.
for the Antonov.
Thank you. Well, I would like to talk about the D17, which I think you are seeing in the slide right now.
Yes.
Well, this is a beautiful old aircraft. I would say an extraordinary aircraft. It's an icon of aviation. Some people say it's like the Cadillac of the air. It's a very popular and beloved one. One special thing about it is the lower wing is moved forward than the upper wing, making it a very particular shape when you see it from the profile. This aircraft was used vastly in the war for ambulance, transport, and cargo. And after the war, it was converted for mostly civilian use. It is a classical aircraft with a lot of history behind. And we at Carenado try to recreate it very close to reality as possible in every aspect of the aircraft. In the aircraft, for example, when you sit in the virtual cockpit, you can almost smell the leather. You can touch and feel the parts of the cockpit that are made of wood. And here the powerful 450 HP radial engine. By the way, I highly recommend flying it using VR. It's like being there. The sensation is incredible. In terms of performance, the aircraft is very close to the real one in all stages of flight. Takeoff, climb, stall, cruise, landing, descent, everything is well done. We have read a lot of documents and all papers that we found, trying to recreate the performance as much as possible. The visual engine of the simulator is excellent, and that allows us to recreate not only the general shape of the aircraft, but also the many details, and that allows us to capture the sense of the aircraft.
Mm.
The real aircraft is a real piece of art, and we try really hard to make it as close as possible to the real thing. It's a very nice aircraft.
So guys, so what you saw there, so that was the famous flyer number 2, which might end up being the famous flyer number 1 if they can't get the licensing for the Antonov. That there was the Beechcraft Model 17 Stagger Wing. But let's go ahead and move forward again. Let's talk about the next Sim Update 8, Iberia.
So this tradition, when we are close to launching a world update, we announce the next one. And I can't see what folks seeing, but World Update 8 is people can probably see it already.
Yep, Iberia.
Iberia. So Portugal and Spain. I brought a few pictures. We are making really good progress. So we have new dam, really good dam, 2-meter dam for Spain. We got 6 new tin cities, 99 POIs, 4 airports. Gaia is making all the models for this one. And we get new missions from Perfect Flight, and I've flown around in it, and it looks stunning. You see a couple of pictures here. Here's Barcelona. We have lots of bridges, lots of fun to fly in. Here we go. All right, and then alongside it, as we just said, and I'll make this quick, is Local Legend number 3. Like the Southern Cross, we wanted to do something that's meaningful, and in this case, it's the first transatlantic flight. But the next thing is important, from Spain to South America. So, but it's a group of Spanish aviators with Roman Franco and 3 others flew this in 1926, and it's a real meaningful accomplishment. But there's stamps in both sides. You know, here's a picture of it. I think this is in Montevideo or something. So it's a famous plane, and the really great news is that the plane is preserved. So it's the next picture, I think, shows you it in Argentina in a museum. We are scanning that, and then there's also a replica that we also scanned already in Friedrichshafen, Germany, in the Dornier Museum. Dornier has been awesome. I have had the total pleasure, like I totally geek out on these things. I think you know this. So I can highly recommend this. Michael van der Meij wrote this book called A Lightning Coming Over the Sea. It's great. His family, his mom started collecting pictures 70-something years ago. He continued it. They have an unbelievable wealth of knowledge. They helped us quite a bit making this plane. And the developer of this plane is Oliver Moser, the guy who made the Junkers. And he's going to join us next time and then we're going to show off the plane and whatnot. So anyways, that's it. World Update 8 and a Dornier plane and water plane coming to you.
Yep.
So guys, we'll be getting updates to Portugal, Spain, 90 new points of interest, 4 airports. Another local legends that you saw there, the Dio Superwall, which I've seen that plane in real life, also at my museum, a replica of that plane. It's not something I'm too excited for, but glad they're doing Iberia. But let's go ahead finally and move on to those very important question and answers ones that regard Xbox or are similar to Xbox. So let's jump to those questions and let's hear what they had to say.
Absolutely. All right, I think it's time for our Q&A. We have a ton of questions I've been seeing, as well as a ton on the forums that we've already documented. So if you're ready to go, we'll dive right into this. All right. The biggest question, top question from the forum. Georg, I'm directing this one to you.
Uh-oh.
So, what is the status of SIM functionality for complex airliners such as the PMDG?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, quite a few companies are working on complex planes. And what comes to mind when I think about that, I mean, there's Aerosoft and the Airbus line, DC Designs and the Concorde, which I can't wait for, honestly. Keep reading their Facebook page. Phoenix Sims 320, Indie Simulations 310, PMDG has their Boeing line. There's several A220s coming. So quite a few are in development, and we are in contact with just about all of them to varying degrees, and some very tight. I would say, as you mentioned, PMDG. It's kind of funny. We've been in direct communication with them since April 2020, and that means there's 8 folks from PMDG, 20 folks from Asobo, also me, but I'm not saying anything. Sitting in a Discord, chatting every day, and there's literally messages going around every day. So we had and I know Robert was his heart on his sort of on the platter when he said, nobody's listening to me. It's like, well, really? We just talked to you just today. So it's like, I mean, so just know that we are very, we're paying a lot of attention. The team is trying to respond immediately. And I think the one that Robert was referring to was actually quite simple. Seb, do you remember what that was?
Yes, I mean, it was surprisingly simple. And I think maybe there was a little bit communication issue on our side. We are following so many plane makers and people, and we didn't understand what it was, the question initially, because it seemed so simple, and other plane makers had basically resolved it. It was just how to find, how to know when basically the loading is over, which we don't really have a loading, right? Because it's always loading. The sim is always streaming something, and in the SDK there was already for maybe a year or so a camera status to know if there's a RTC going on, if it's basically interactive or not, and also there's another a variable which is a Simba, which allows you to know if you basically have the input, or if the plane is basically not if you're not plugged onto the plane and it's whatever run by RTC or something. So it was really a question on how to use this, and yeah, it was already, everything was already there. Nothing to do with, I don't know, complex simulation of aerodynamics or anything. It was more like a how do we load an in and out question, and yeah, well, it took us some time to really understand what was the question, because it felt so simple, and I think it was maybe a miscommunication on how, yeah, but it was already there. The answer was there. It was in the doc, but I just okay, what is it that is really needed, and once it clicked, it was like immediately solved. So it's
yeah. So I would just say, in general, we are totally engaged with third parties that are attempting to make really complex things. They help. The team helps whenever they can. We sometimes invite devs like PMDG and others to our SDK meeting, even to give us direct feedback. And like Hans was there just a few weeks ago, giving us his particular observations. And I'm actually very proud of the team. Like, I have to really stand up for the SDK team and the engine team. They are super customer friendly. They are reacting immediately. I mean, to the point of they drop everything they're doing just to help others out. So as far as complex airliners, to answer the actual question, we are quite sure that several of them will arrive in the sim in the coming weeks or months. The first PMDG Boeing plane, I'm personally very much looking forward to this, and Robert knows this. I've talked plenty. I hope it's among them. I mean, it's obviously a complex plane, and how quickly can the team get the plane up and running is really up to them. All we can do is help them with their questions, and they have an open channel to us.
Mm-hmm. Next big topic I have here. Yes, I'm going to say the word Xbox. I see you, chat. So there is certainly perception in the community right now, Jorg. Xbox players, with them feeling a little less than, they're not seeing as many third-party aircraft come through. There's a few bugs. There's some bugs in there with Xbox crashing. So let's just talk about Xbox a little bit. For example, can we get an update on the issues kind of preventing the release of some third-party aircraft on Xbox?
Yes, so I actually looked at some stats before the meeting. So we have 68 aircraft total in the marketplace. There's actually more in other marketplaces as well that it hasn't come to us yet, but we have 68 on PC, and 43 of which are on Xbox. Mm-hmm. And we have 12 more submitted from developers. So that's just a matter of like the next few weeks, because I don't know if you noticed, but our marketplace team is is quite big now. There was such an overwhelming amount of content that we probably underestimated that. So we hired a bunch of people, and I think they submitted 100+ things last week. Some are fixes, some are new, right? It's going to be that. So I think 55 out of 68 planes are going to be on Xbox within the next 2 weeks or something. There are a few that are not, like, and for example, notable exceptions are the CRJ, the Twin Otter, the PMDG PC6. So that is all true. And just to explain that, so unlike a PC, a console is considered a closed environment. Consoles always have the problem is that they can't be hacked, they shouldn't crash. Yeah. And anyways, but they can't be hacked. And so everything is in a sandbox. So, and then some of the plane makers, specifically people that have been in the industry for a long time, they have a lot of code that they wrote in C++. And C++ is a security risk if you don't have it in a sandbox. So we basically invented, work on something called WASM. And that translation keeps it safe. So it's in a sandbox, but it's some amount of work, and B, and the time we ran into this was the PMDG DC6. So we tested it, we announced it. I don't know if you remember, we actually put a trailer up on our own website saying, hey, Xbox Wire is the website, right? So we put a trailer up saying it's coming. And then we launched it and it didn't work. And we had obviously spent weeks, if not months, testing it on Xbox. And the difference is we test, and the way this works is we test on something called development kit, which is essentially the same as the retail kit, except some security things. And it worked on the dev kit just fine. And we put it out in the marketplace and it didn't work because it broke some rules of the console. And maybe just to put it in perspective, I don't know how many of you are gamers. There really isn't anything like a third-party open marketplace on a console. It doesn't really exist. But Microsoft Flight Simulator actually is a big deal at Microsoft, and the platform team committed. They said, we want to enable this scenario. We want to bring third-party planes with essentially C++ code in a sandbox to the platform. And that's where it's currently at. So it's with the platform team. We need the platform team to make this real and to keep the platform safe, right? We don't want that Xbox to get hacked because some third-party plane on Flight Sim, right? That would be bad PR. So they're committed. It's multiple teams on the platform side, and it's going to take a few months is the reality. We have done what we can. We are actually talking about, there is sort of a way we could do it as sort of a Kluge hack that we've been discussing, but we're evaluating the long-term implications if we really do this. So we could get the plane to use sooner, but there might be some not so great things happening once the platform team actually enables the functionality. So that's the trade-off. Well, we are highly motivated, as you know. There's tons of people on Xbox. When I said that at the outset, we have literally probably added 1 million people just over the holidays. A lot of them are on Xbox, and they deserve that they can play everything. So we are really considering this right now. The platform, the good news is the platform's doing it. Yay, that is great. And then we might be doing something shorter term, because the platform thing might take, it could take 6 months. We don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully that explains it.
It does. Yes. Thank you so much.
Baseball. Here you go.
So guys, from what we hear there, that's really, really good news. Sad news is we're not getting CRJ or Twin Otter with PC6 yet, but he did say that within the next 2 weeks, which I might have to believe it to see it, or see it to believe it, that is, we are getting 55 of 68 submitted aircraft on the Xbox. Well, let's just hope that 40 of those are not Bredoc or Deimos or Captain Sim. So that is really good news. It's also really good news that they are making it where the third-party developers that are coding in C++, that they developed this sandbox thing that they can use so they can help get their planes over, and also the fact that they are, as you heard there, they are working on ways to get third-party planes over, to bend the rules, to get these third-party planes over to Xbox. As he said there, that this is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It could be 6 months, but they are trying to find ways and hacks around it to get these planes over. So this is really good news, and this means that there's a lot of planes about to drop. So that probably means tomorrow we're going to see quite a bunch. But let's continue on.
Going back to improvements when we were talking about Xbox and the Xbox platform, is there any push to eventually allow Xbox players to have the ability to import .plm files from external sources, maybe using something like OneDrive?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those security things we need to
Yeah.
be careful with. It's just the nature of the beast. I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions about liveries,
Mm-hmm.
and short story is I just talked to Elise right earlier this morning because I'm trying to get Air France convinced to give us 2 liveries for the Falcon, like it's Air Orient and Sedna or something, and they're thinking about it, and it's great. So the KLM folks, Bas is his name, was really helping us a ton. He's really helping, right? So it's the goal is to get my goal continues to be to get all the airliner liveries that exist. It's just one nibble at a time. It's a little takes a lot of energy, but I want to do it. And then I think because ultimately we want to update them. There's a whole bunch of detail that you never get. Like just this morning, I heard there's like 14 different liveries, and they obviously are flight aware, so we even know which planes they're on, so we can do a really, really accurate job. That's the goal: be as accurate as we can be. But so we have actually much more than people think as far as liveries. But we haven't really put everything in yet because of memory issues that we talked about like a while ago. We need to be careful to just not dump huge amounts of data into the sim without being really cognizant of what's going on already with memory. But that's the goal. And then as far as like custom liveries, yeah, there's other ways to do it. Like obviously games like Forza managed to do it. So and we are talking about that. It's I'm not sure it's a 2022 thing, honestly, but we're at least talking about it.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Just a couple more questions here before we end. We got about 2 minutes. Someone in chat here is asking, would we be able to put out a list of coming soon aircraft on aircraft?
I like that idea. I think I'll think about that.
Sure.
So we're actually doing something very similar. Like we are, and they're third-party companies, right? They ship when they want to. So you have to take dates with a grain of salt. I mean, if you pay attention to the game industry, things slip all the time. And third-party planes, they will ship it when they think it's ready. And so we don't have any control over it.
So guys, so that's really cool. So the coming soon plane thing, he's really down for it and wants to do it. So that's an idea I've been saying, to put that in the marketplace. So we could see what's coming. And she said, it's kind of hard to do with certain developers, but what can be done is once planes are submitted, those planes can be shown as coming soon as they're going through the testing. As far as the liveries you saw there, they're talking about doing everything they can to get all the liveries over. So that's really good news, even comparing to, some custom stuff like Forza did. And then it doesn't look like we're going to be able to use OneDrive or anything to bring over some third-party stuff that way, but it does not mean that stuff will not come over through the marketplace. So this is still just really good news for the Xbox. So guys, so I'm going to go ahead and just sum up the rest of it because a lot of it's just a lot of small talk being drawn out, but we're getting a new Marketplace update with Sim Update 8. It's going to be called Marketplace 2.0. So they don't really go into too much detail on what all it's going to consist of, but it's supposed to be a lot better. Also, they talked about the ATR and how that's not been released yet, even though it was due, I believe, last month, that's still a work in progress. And then they also talk about planes ghosting when they're next to you, especially in precision flying with other people. So they're talking about adding an option there where planes won't ghost on you when they're close to you. So you be able to turn that on and off if you want to see a plane ghost, especially if you're doing acrobatics, or whatever with somebody, you don't lose sight of their plane. So there'll be a cool feature that'll be added. So you be able to turn off the ghosting. But I think all in all, this is really good news for Xbox. Like I said, there's a huge amount of planes about to drop. I don't know what all those planes are. Very curious of what 55 out of 68 planes about to drop. Very curious what that's going to be. I'm very glad to see that they're doing everything they can to try to get planes over to the Xbox. So that just really alliterates on that. I do know the stream seemed a little bit off at certain points with the mouth and stuff. It was laggy during the recording on Twitch, and nothing I could really do about it. But I'm glad the vocals, though, y'all could hear, and that was not lagged out. But as always, guys, I'm Pilot83, and I hope that this was very beneficial to y'all and getting some facts out to y'all, especially the Xbox community. Until next time, guys, I'll see you in the air. If you made it this far, thank you so much. If you like this video and you feel like I earned your subscription, please hit that subscribe button and that like button so you don't miss out. Until next time, guys, see you in the air.